Okay, so I wanna start by saying a couple things. One, I will not be ranking all premium plants. I will only rank the ones that I have used. Two, I will be basing all of my opinions on level 1 and adventure. 3, what's my third rule? My opinion is objectively true, always. Okay, let's start this off very simple. Peashooter. That's why? Okay. Peashooter is D tier. Or low C tier. It's either D tier or C tier. It's one of these two. It's not a bad plant, but there's just so many better options. There's so many things that outclass it. E rank, I'm not having E rank because E is just not a real thing. I don't know why people put E on tier lists. It's just not real. I'll put it in C for now. Sunflower, easy A tier. Walnut. Walnut's a very underrated plant. I think it's very deserving of A tier. For what it does its job very well. Potato Mine is the best tutorial plant. It is A tier. It is an insta-kill plant. It deserves A tier. For 25 sun. Cabbage Pult, good contender for worst plant in the game. Actually, I think if Cabbage Pult's F, I have Peashooter D. Cabbage Pult is just an objectively worse Peashooter. Cabbage is not better than Peashooter. It is statistically worse. And there's never any reason to use Cabbage over Peashooter. Because, like, grid items are easily countered by, or at least in Ancient Egypt, because you're never going to use these plants after Ancient Egypt, they're countered by Gravebuster, just straight up Bloomerang. Bloomerang, I think it's just C tier. It's a very underwhelming plant. Iceberg, easy S tier. Gravebuster. Gravebuster, for what it does, is a very good plant. I'm going to be ranking tool plants. It deserves A tier. Bonk Choy, I think, is also A tier. I'd put it, like, here. Repeater, I'd put B tier. Twin Sunflower, probably lower than Repeater. I think Twin Sunflower is the worst sun producer, because it's just not worth it for 125 sun. A lot of levels are really fast. There's just never any point in using the slowest recharge and the highest sun class sun producer over plants that pretty much produce the same amount of sun, like Sunshroom or Primal Sunflower. Kernel Pult. So, if you've been on this channel for a long time, I used to say, or I still stand by this, Kernel Pult is the worst plant in PvZ1. Kernel Pult just was not worth it, because it was the worst supporter. It was statistically the worst supporter because of how it's based off of RNG. And its damage output was just the worst in the game, so there's never any point of using it. I think Kernel Pult in PvZ2, though, because of the sun meta being 50, and because of how its damage was buffed, I think it's B tier. Snapdragon, easy S tier. Under Iceberg Lettuce, though. Spikeweed, I think Spikeweed, there was one point during my 2-slot run where I was very high on Spikeweed, and I would go so far as to put it in S tier. I've kind of come to the realization that it's not that good without support. So I'd still put it in, like, A tier, bottom of A tier. Spring Bean. Spring Bean's a weird one because, well, it has more uses than Cabbage Pole, I'll give it that. I think Spring Bean, you know, nah, I'd put it low D. Actually, no, I'm not putting Peashooter and Spring Bean in the same tier. I think Spring Bean is D because it has at least one use. That being, that it can fuck up dodos. That's the only reason I'm putting it in D. It is not... Okay. It may be F tier, but I'm not putting it in the same tier as Peashooter. And or wait, no. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to put... Okay, top of F tier. Coconut Cannon, I think, is also A tier. Probably higher than Potato Mine. I think Coconut Cannon's a pretty underrated plant, though. Jupiter's a very weird plant. I used to love it a lot, but in Adventure, there really isn't ever any point in using it. In PvZ1, at least, it was good for the pool. In PvZ2, nah, I just don't care for it. It's either, like, low B or high C, because essentially it's just 3 Peashooters, and yeah, I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe I'll put it in top of C. Spike Rock, kind of the same as Spikeweed. Cherry Bomb is an easy S tier. I think that's... If you think it's anything lower than S tier, then I don't know what to tell you. Split Pea's also a weird plant, because Split Pea's actually really good for stuff like Jurassic Marsh. Well, it's essentially just a 125 sun repeater, but it's also very situational. So I'm considering it I'm considering putting it like low C. I think that's what I'm going to do. Chili bean is also one of those just kind of grossly underrated plants. Because what it is essentially a combination of Stunion and Potato Mine. But I'm still going to put it lower than Potato Mine because of how you need to eat it for it to activate. Pea Pod is a very situational plant, but the situations it's good in, it's a very good plant. I just think there aren't many situations where it's good in, so I'm going to keep it at B. Here's a spicy one, Lightning Reed. Chat, what are your opinions on Lightning Reed? What do you guys think of Lightning Reed? Okay, so a very mixed plant. Y'all think it's a very, very mixed plant. I'm seeing a lot of A's. I'm seeing a lot of B's, but I'm also seeing a couple F's. Okay, y'all can stop spamming now, by the way. Lightning Reed is kind of a shit plant. I recognize that it's good when spammed. However, it's the same logic as Starfruit and PVZ1. Lightning Reed is pretty unusable unless spammed, but when spammed, it's a good plant. Thus, it averages out as C tier. However, there's also the point to be made that every plant is good when spammed. There are just plants that do its job so much better. Snapdragon, if you have 6 Snapdragons, it does the same amount of damage as 15 Lightning Reeds. And it covers more lanes. Spikeweed's pretty good. It's a lot better than Lightning Reed in my opinion. Chain damage, bro. Yeah, okay. Chain damage is very, very overrated. Because the chain only hits to like 3 zombies at a time, maybe 6. There are some other plants, like this certain plant in S tier, that hits every zombie in an area, not just 3 to 6. You can't tell me that Chain Lightning is better than that. Melon Pult's one of those ones that is like, I don't really use it a lot, but I recognize that it's good. So I guess I'd have to put it in A tier. Same with Tallnut. I don't know how to feel about Tallnut. It's a very, like, I've never used it. There's never any reason to use it. But it's still a good plant. Just at the point of where you get it, it's just not that great. But still okay. Might move it down to B tier. Wintermelon, that's hot potato. Wintermelon's a pretty easy S tier. I don't need to go into that. Hot potato. Hot potato, I don't like hot potato. I don't really see much in it. For what it does, it's not horrible, but it could be a lot better. I think Altverse did hot potato the best, where it has no recharge but costs 50 sun. Pepper is easy F. I've already gone over this before. Chard Guard is easy S. That one should be fairly obvious. Stunion's essentially the same thing as Iceberg. I think both. I'm going to put Stalia up there too. I'm going to go out of order. All 3 of these plants are very similar, and I'd rank them all in the same spot, because they all serve different purposes. But they all are very, very good at it. And then Roto's an S tier plant. Rotobaga's in the same boat as Reed, yes, but you see, Rotobaga has an actually good damage output. Absolutely cheeses Big Wave Beach and Jurassic Marsh. And it's purple. That point doesn't matter. I just like joking about it because purple's probably the best color. Yeah, I'd put Rotobaga on S because of how broken it is when spammed. Compared to Lightning Reed, when it's spammed, it's still kinda mid. It's good, but not as great as other plants when spammed. I didn't mean to do that. Red Stinger. I'd put it as a worse repeater because of how it just can't be spammed as effectively. I loved AKEE when I was younger. I think though, I mean, I still love it, but it's just not a great plant. It's a Bloomerang, but better. Yes, Bloomerang has a worse damage output. I mean, AKEE does like 60 damage to a zombie. But there's still no point in using it over things that have better splash damage. Like, you know, every other splash damage plant. That isn't Pepper Bolt. And Durian. So I was going to put it in like B tier. Into putting it in the A tier. Because it's kind of in the same boat as Spikeweed where it needs a support plant to be good. But I also kind of realize that Endurian itself is a support plant. It's not meant to be a high damaging, absolutely phenomenal plant. I love Endurian. It's very fun to use, but it's not that great. Goldleaf. Goldleaf is another plant that is kind of underrated. I think it's like bottom of A tier. Because if you think about it, it's a zero cost sun producer. It is not F tier, it is not D tier. I know that it's only in Lost City. But if you really think about it, it's the same logic as Time Warp. If you had it in other worlds, it would just be game-breakingly broken. Laser Bean. I don't like Laser Bean. It's possibly the most overrated plant in the game. I think it's worse than Lightning Reed. I mean, at least in the context of adventure, like I've been going over, I don't care about Arena, I don't care about Penny's Pursuit, and I'm not really paying attention to Endless. I see it's good in Endless. It's not good in Adventure, because Adventure is very fast-paced, right? Very, very fast-paced. Laser Beam essentially just speeds up that pace. The reason I love manual plants so much is because of how much they control the tempo of the game and how much they can, like, stall out, give you enough sun you need. Laser Beam kind of ruins your, it really does kind of ruin your stalling. There are some plants that do its job, but are just so much better at it. There are some people like GNVS who say it's the best plant in the game, and I can respect that, but it's really only based off of glitches with it, with Blover. I don't think it's better than Coconut Cannon. Citron is another one of those plants I just don't care for. I think it's also C tier. Coconut Cannon is just it, but better. EM Peach is a very weird plant because it serves one specific purpose, and while it's good at that purpose, you're never going to have a reason to use it over like Iceberg Lettuce or Stalia. I'd put it in maybe B tier or C tier. Infinite is definitely a good plant, but it's not that useful without support like Chard Guard. Yeah, maybe Infinite's A tier, but I just don't. If I put Infinite in A tier, then so is Tall Nut. Magnifying Grass, you already know why I love Magnifying Grass. I'm not going into it right now. Tile Turnip, when considered in the context of Adventure and when you don't level, it's not that great. And there's never any reason to use it in Adventure. Sunshroom is easily one of the best sun producers in the game, one of the best plants overall. Puffshroom is not the best, but deserves S tier because of just how easily it's spammable it is. Fumeshroom is just objectively a better Laser Beam because it does the same amount of damage as Laser Beam with a better fire rate and essentially just worse range, but for 75 less sun. It's not the most useful plant in the world, but considering that the range doesn't make it so that you lose within 12 seconds of the game starting, I guess I'd put it with Melon Pole. Sunbeam, I love Sunbeam. I think Sunbeam is also one of those very underrated plants. I mean, it can stack, and it gives you like 500 sun against a lot of zombies. It's supposed to be a support plant. It's not supposed to be your main, unless you're playing Dark Ages Night 14. So, I mean, if you put it in the context of how it's your only sun producer, then it doesn't really match up with any other sun producers. But in the context of it being a support plant, it's better than Gold Leaf. It can stack. Yes, it can stack. I didn't know that until like last week when I was watching Adwax stream. If you watched my Only Peashooter stream, you saw me using it a lot. Especially in Big Wave Beach. It's very good with like levels where you don't have that much space, or you need like a high DPS to win it. Magnitude is kind of an overrated plant. I mean, it's a good plant, but there's also just never any reason to use it over stalling plants or just higher DPS plants. Fat Bead, I don't care for Fat Bead. It kind of is also in C tier. Celery Stalker is an easy S tier. I'll put it over here. Time Warp is another one of those plants. Same story as Gold Leaf, where if it was in every world, then it would be the most broken plant in the game. But I'm going to keep it at A tier. Garlic, good contender for worst plant in the game. Spore Shroom, I'm going to come back to because I really don't know what to say on it. Intensive Carrot, there's never any point where you're going to use it. Because if you think about, like, you're going to use it on, like, a Wintermelon or something, if a Wintermelon dies, one, you suck at the game. How did you lose a Wintermelon? It should be in the back of the lawn. How did you lose one? And two, if you have the sun for a Wintermelon, then you have the sun to plant another one. There's just never any point where it's going to be useful. I liked Modern Day 25, and it could be good in conveyor belt levels, but it's only in one conveyor. Primal Peashooter is an easy A tier plant. Yeah, I'll keep it A because it's, the knockback's kind of inconsistent. Primal Walnut is also a pretty easy S tier. Perfume Shroom is not a good plant. There's no... do I want to put an F or do I want to put an D? It can be useful, but there's never any point in using it. It's kind of the same as Imitator. Not Imitator. Intensive Carrot. Primal Sunflower. It's the same as, well, these two plants, Sunshroom and Primal Sunflower, are very interchangeable. Primal Sunflower is a lot better for shorter levels, but Sunshroom is better for longer levels. Both of them are just very, very good plants in general. So I wouldn't put one over the other. Primal Potato Mine. is better than Magnifying Grass. I'm not sorry. Lily Pad, for what Lily Pad does, it's a very good plant. It's kind of the same as Grave Buster, where it's only really useful in a single world. But in that world, it's a very good plant. Tangle Kelp is a very underrated plant. It's kind of a worse potato mine, but it's also very good for a lot of threats in Big Wave Beach. Bowling Bulb, Bowling Bulb. Bowling Bulb. Chat, what are your opinions on Bowling Bulb? I didn't expect so many people disliking it. And I have to agree. Bowling Bulb is one of the worst plants in the game. People try to justify Bowling Bulb by saying it's a good plant when it's leveled. If it's only a good plant when it's leveled, it is quite simply not a good plant. I don't know why people don't understand that. Guacodile is a very underrated plant. I think it's also A tier. Banana Launcher is just a better coconut cannon. You know, I'd go so far as to say that Banana Launcher is actually better than Cob Cannon from PvZ1. I do think if Cob Cannon was in PvZ2, at least with the same stats from in PvZ1, then it just wouldn't... Banana Launcher would be better. Moonflower, that's Holly Barrier. I don't care about you. Moonflower is, I'd say, in the same boat as Sunshroom and Primal Sunflower. I think Nightshade is a good plant, but there's never really any reason to use it over better plants. Shadow Shroom is a very good plant. It's kind of in the same boat with these. These are all interchangeable, which is why I'm grouping them all up. I think Shadow Shroom, though, since it doesn't have the area damage unless it's powered, then I'll put it over Potato Mine anyway, because Shadow Shroom does have the best plant food in the game, easily. Dusklover is also very easily S tier. Although it's kind of crap when not powered, but there's no reason for you to not use it without Moonflower. I'd put it below All Winter Melon. Methinks Grimrose is such a weird plant. I don't really care for it. If you guys saw Adwex beating Dr. Zomboss, but you choose the slots, as if it's just a normal level with Dr. Zomboss, then Grimrose was actually pretty overpowered. But I feel otherwise, it's kind of in the same boat as Laserbeam, where it just kind of fucks over your tempo and makes the game a lot faster. It's like a worse Tangle Kelp, really. So when I'm ranking Snowpea, I think it's kind of in the context of before it was buffed. I'd put Snowpea in probably A tier, actually. Jalapeno is a very situational plant. I do love Jalapeno. Jalapeno and Snowpea were my favorite plants when I was younger. But I just don't see Jalapeno being that useful in PvZ2. I'll put it here because it's pretty situational. I know it's an insta-kill, but when are you going to use it over Cherry Bomb or Potato Mine or Primal Potato Mine or really anything else that's an insta-kill plant? Let's do a plant I actually care about. Sapling. What are your opinions on Sapling? Chat, what are your opinions on Sapling? I disagree with all of you. Sapling is an easy A tier plant. Maybe. Do I want to put it S tier? I think 1, it would be funny if I put it in S tier. And 2, it is essentially just a permanent Stalia. And Stalia is already an S tier plant. Sapling is a permanent Stalia for 75 sun. It makes plants like Endurian and Spikeweed S tier. So it's kind of in the same sense as Moonflower, as it is the enabler. Also, it's very useful for Magnifying Grass and other manual plants and higher cost plants. Deciding factor, does it deal damage? The fact that it doesn't deal damage makes it better. It is a staller. It is a stalling plant. It is not supposed to do damage. It is not supposed to be a Snowpea. It is, by every mean, just a stalling plant. Thus, for what it does, Sapling is a cracked plant. I'm talking myself into putting it into S tier. I originally had it in A tier, but I'm talking myself into putting it in S tier. I've used Dandelion a bit. I do like Dandelion. I think Dandelion's a very intriguing plant. I love what it does with Blover. But I feel like it's kind of like Citron, where the projectiles being really slow kind of make it just okay. Maybe A tier. Parsnip is just a better Guacodile. Parsnip's probably around here. I'm going to rank Starfruit. because of how I ranked Rutabaga. Starfruit is just a worse Rutabaga. I think Star is probably only A tier. Actually, I'll rank Homing Thistle. I think Homing Thistle is a very mid plant because, well, I've been very high on Homing Thistle. I've defended it a lot with how it's not cattail and how it's better on land. Over time, I've kind of realized that its damage output it just isn't the best compared to a lot of other plants. The homing aspect of it is cool, but it's never really useful. And in sometimes is actually more of a loss than anything. Top of B tier. Hurricane. Hurricane, I love Hurricane. I think same as these plants, honestly. Fire Pea is kind of just... I wouldn't say it's a better repeater. I'll keep it below repeater because of how repeater is just better with Torchwood. Chomper. Chomper is an insta-kill plant. Fast recharge, but since it's 150 sun, it's a lot better than in PVZ1. In PVZ1, I'd say Chomper's like high B tier, top of B tier. In PVZ2, because of the recharge, or not the recharge, like the sun meta, maybe it's bottom of A. Toadstool's just a better Chomper with range. I love Toadstool so much. Funny Frog Gaming, guys. Put Funny Frog Gaming around there. Chomper has a slow reaction. That's actually pretty true, though. I kind of forgot about that. Maybe above Spikeweed. No, I'm going to keep it there. Lower than Sunbeam. What else do I want to rank? I think Jack-o'-lantern is a very interesting plant. I love its damage output. It actually has the second best damage output in the game. Just behind Magnifying Grass and just in front of Celery Stalker. But are there many times when it's really actually that useful? Also, the way you fire it's kind of, not my favorite. I think it's still S tier because of the damage output alone. I'll put Squash below Potato Mine. Solar Tomato is kind of a hidden gem. Because it's Sunbeam, in a way, as a support plant. But kind of better. I think Solar Tomato, as ugly as it is, deserves a lot more love. I think Solar Tomato... I'd put it around the same as Sunbeam. I'll rank Ghost Pepper. I've used Ghost Pepper a bit. Do I want to? Do I really want to put Ghost Pepper? Yeah, I will. Gold Bloom. I got Gold Bloom back when it was still an Epic Quest plant on my original save file. And obviously it's a very cracked plant. Put it above Moonflower. E-Berry? I think it's a good plant, but it's too RNG based to be really that good. Obviously it is an insta-kill for Gargantuars and everything, but it's also very RNG based, so I don't really know if it's worth it. Like, most of the time it doesn't even hit Gargantuars. And the slow recharge, although understandable, just doesn't make it that great. So I'd put it in B. Since, considering the fact that I don't really know what to say for the rest of these, like, I have opinions on some of these. Like, I think Sweet Potato is a good plant. I think Strawbush is a good plant. I think Lava Guava is a good plant. But I haven't really used any of these enough to, like, give a good opinion on them. So I'm just going to end it here. This is my tier list. And for now, I'm going to head out. Goodbye.